Fair use. Grief, one day at a time. 365 Meditations to Help You Heal After Loss by Alan D. Wolfett, PhD. August 12th. Denial helps us to pace our feelings of grief. There is a grace in denial. It is nature's way of letting in only as much as we can handle. A quote by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. Especially in the beginning of our grief, denial is our friend. It couldn't have happened. It didn't happen. There must be some mistake. It's just not possible. Denial helps us survive what would otherwise be unsurvivable. Later on, denial is like a door we close when too much pain is rushing in. That's enough reality for now, we say, and we slam the door shut. Maybe tomorrow we can open the door again and let a little more hurt in. Moderation in all things. Too much grief at once is bad, and so we dose ourselves with it. But too much denial is also bad, and so we must only allow ourselves doses of it. The meditation reads, I use denial to pace my grief. I shut the door, then open the door. Shut, open, shut, open. August 13th. Grief is itself a medicine. A quote from William Cowper. You might hear grief described as an illness or a condition sometime. That's because our scientific method, obsessed evidence-based discipline of medicine, which includes mental health, has tried to take ownership of grief and mourning. But grief isn't an illness or disorder. It's the natural and necessary counterpart to having loved. We don't need to be treated for our grief. There's nothing wrong with us. We just need to grieve and to express our grief. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. The meditation reads, My grief is natural and necessary. To feel and express my grief is to heal my grief. August 14th. There was never a time when your life was not now, nor will there ever be. A quote from Eckhart Tolle. While our grief naturally and necessarily takes us into our past and leads us into our imagined futures, life, meanwhile, is happening in the now. Being present in the moment is a difficult way of being to master, but it's worth working on. When you need a break from your grief and mourning, try to focus on the here and now. Pay attention to your breathing in, out. Notice the people, objects, colors, and textures around you. Attend to the sounds you hear. Smell the aromas in the air. Really taste the food you are eating. While we always miss the person who died, focusing on the present moment can provide breathing space. The meditation reads, When I need a break from my grief today, I will focus on being present in the here and now. August 15th. History is a set of lies agreed upon. A quote from Napoleon Bonaparte. Have you noticed there's a taboo against speaking ill of the dead? No one's perfect, including our loved ones who died. But after death, we tend to downplay their shortcomings and focus on or even exaggerate their best qualities. Hindsight may be 20/20, except when it comes to people who've died. then it tends to be more like 2200, fuzzy and rose-colored. Each of us has the right to remember those who died as we choose. We each create our own stories, and in the process of telling and retelling the stories, the sharp edges often get worn smooth. Sometimes, though, we find ourselves revisiting painful memories and bad feelings in our storytelling. That's okay too. It just means we need to explore and express them. Anger, regret, shame, disgust, those feelings are as legitimate as any other. If we share them outside of ourselves, even if it means speaking ill of the dead, they will soften, allowing more loving, compassionate feelings to come to the fore. The meditation reads, I have the right to my own unique thoughts and feelings about the person who died. My reality is my reality. August 16th. For the seed to achieve its greatest expression, it must come completely undone. The shell cracks, its insides come out, and everything changes. To someone who doesn't understand growth, it would look like complete destruction. A quote from Cynthia Ocelli. People tell us we'll grow from this loss. They say we'll get wiser and stronger. We don't want to grow. Give us back those who died instead. Eventually, we'll see, though, that we are, in fact, changing. We've learned hard lessons. We're becoming different people, people who better understand what's really important, who appreciate others more, who are more likely to live out our passions and discard the rest. Our shells are cracking and our insides are coming out. Like seeds that have been planted, we are experiencing not annihilation, which is what it feels like much of the time, but instead transformation. The meditation reads, I am completely undone. I am transforming. August 17th. I think I did pretty well, considering I started out with nothing but a bunch of blank paper. A quote from Steve Martin. Now, there's a way to think about our lives. We start out with nothing but a bunch of blank paper, an empty canvas or blank calendar. Then we start to live and we slowly begin to fill in all that white space. As we're living, we often feel like everything's a mess, like our paper is getting filled up with all kinds of mistakes and wasted opportunities and loss. But when we take a few steps away from the paper and look at it, we can see that our lives are beautiful and amazing. Besides, what's the alternative? The blank paper. I think we're doing pretty well, considering we started out like nothing but a bunch of blank paper. The meditation reads, Everything's chaotic and mixed up. I guess I'm doing pretty well. August 18th. I don't like that man. I must get to know him better. A quote from Abraham Lincoln. When we don't like something or someone, our instinct is to distance ourselves from it. We look away. We move away. We don't like our grief, so we try to ignore it, suppress, or deny it. We look away whenever we can. We move away. What we really need to do, though, is to get to know our grief better. We must move closer to it and befriend it, because even though our instincts are telling us to run, we must remember that we are contaminated by our culture, which misunderstands the role of pain and suffering. As we learn to accept the necessity of grief, we will find the true and natural instinct to get to know our grief. It's been there deep inside us all along. The meditation reads, I don't like my grief. I must get to know it better. Please like, subscribe, share, and remember that you are not alone, one day at a time.